Down. Welcome, everyone. Police Committee agenda meeting, Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Nlaka'pamux and Syilx people. 2.1, adoption of minutes. Police Committee meeting minutes, March 14th, 2024. Recommendation that the minutes of the Police Committee meeting held on March 14th, 2024 be adopted. Councillor Petrozzi. Councillor Etcher, any errors or omissions on the those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unfinished business. New business. 2024 statistics to be presented by Staff Sergeant Rhoda. Staff Sergeant Rhoda, you're up.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mayor. Mayor and Police Committee, thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm just going to start with providing a brief overview, comparing statistics for the past years of policing in Merritt to what we've experienced this past year in 2024. So just to start off, in 2024, we went through a substantial amount of major police incidents, from fatal collisions on the provincial highways to armed robberies, kidnapping. We had major arsons this year, serial sex assaults, child deaths, armed and barricaded subjects with guns, shootings, police shootings, and some homicides. So it has been a taxing year on the officers, and we are hoping for some relief in 2025. Now, a neat piece that I don't have in here that I want to share today is we went through that string of shootings that happened with Ron Carlson recently. It all occurred in the city of Merritt, so it was a huge bill to the municipal side of the house through a program called SITE, which is a Special Investigations and Targeted Enforcement Program. And that program is essentially, it's a provincial program. It was announced by the province in April of 2023 by the Premier, the Minister of Public Safety, and Solicitor General. And it was a 3-year pilot project that provides funds to law enforcement agencies that qualify. And the purpose was to support a more effective approach to address repeat violent offenders. So after this incident happened, we applied to the SITE program. They gave us $50,000 back to our municipal budget to cover those overtime costs. And we just received word today, they've given us another $92,000. So that's $140,000, if my math is correct, that's been given to us by the province. And that goes directly to the detachment. So we've put that against the overtime budget on the municipal side of the house. So yeah, really great news. So just wanted to share that piece. So moving back to the report here, the Merritt RCMP have consistently responded to over 6,000 calls for service per year in the past 5 years. And by the end of this year, 2024, we will hit the highest file count we've seen in 5 years. So when I ran the stats last week, we were at 6426. I looked today and we're over 6,500 calls already. So we're going to surpass 2021, which was previously the highest file count. So we're getting busier. That's the reality. The number one location for police calls for service in 2024 was the Merritt Desert Inn with 133 calls. Interestingly enough, 127 of those calls occurred between January and August. So after the tent city was disbanded, we've only taken 6 calls for service at that location. So huge difference. We move to the next bit. I'm just looking at the municipal versus provincial calls for service. So in 2024, we took 4,400 calls in the city of Merritt and just over 2,000 in the provincial area. The numbers are still climbing because we're not at the end of the year yet. My estimate is we'll be about 4,500 calls in the municipality and just over 2,100 in the provincial area. So there was a just over 350 call increase in the city. And that's compared to last year. It's actually going to be more. It's going to be about 450 call increase in the city of Merritt between 2023 and 2024. So, yeah.
So, Staff Sergeant, just so to let you know, at the last council meeting, we pulled the Nicola Park out of the ability for tenting.
Okay.
So that's now been removed, and we have set a different spot up at the airport for that in the future. We kind of felt that it was not conducive to have that in the middle of the community. So that's where our new tenting area is.
Excellent.
Just a quick question, and maybe this is something you can give me numbers on over the next little while. I'm looking for stats on how many calls we have in the TNRD as compared to city limits. We're just trying to start thinking about some billing issues with TNRD, looking for some shared costs on calls. Now, I pretty much know that every single highway call is in the TNRD, but I would just like to get some numbers on that over the next 3 or 4 months. Sure. If you have the ability. It's just, I'm feeling and that TNRD needs to help us with some policing, because at this point they help us not one bit. So
Okay.
I just like some information on it if we could get that.
So if any, like, would anything outside the municipality
This
be
TNRD.
considered the TNRD?
Yep.
So it's going to be 2,026 calls. That's
Okay.
the provincial area.
Okay,
So
thank
if you look at this chart, it's going to be anything that's not in the city.
Okay.
So the city was, like I said, it'll probably be about 4,500 calls in 2024. The TNRD provincial area will be about just over 2,100.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the next page will be, you know what, I'm going to skip 2 over just to kind of give you, I might as well include on that. So if you look at calls for service to the Coquihalla Highway, so out of the 2,026 calls for service, 860 were actually on the provincial highways in 2024. And interestingly enough, that's a huge decrease so far from what we've seen in the previous years. So like the highest we hit was 2020 at 1,041, and we've dropped down to 860 in 2024. So that's been a welcomed surprise for us this past year. So I'll go back to the reports to Crown Council, and I notice I just have an error in my piece here. I wrote RCCs versus warrants. That shouldn't be there, but in 2024, and this was to last week, we've already submitted more, is we submitted 286 reports to Crown Council, recommending 607 charges. This is the highest number of reports to Crown Council that we've submitted in the past 5 years, and the highest number of charges we've requested against offenders in the past 5 years. And of the 286 reports that went to Crown, 231 of them were in the city of Merritt limits.
Councillor Richard.
I just wanted to clarify, when you said site, what was the name of it?
Oh, the site program, yeah. So the program, the site is the thing, but the name of the program, let me just pull it up here. It's the Special Investigations.
Target something.
Targeted Enforcement.
And enforcement?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And also when we did the minutes for the CO, they spelled your name with an H in the middle. I noticed that spelling mistake.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry, before we passed it, I forgot to mention it. Sorry. Thanks. Sorry.
Thanks. No problem. Do you guys have any questions about the reports to Crown, the charges that we've submitted in the past year? Yeah.
Well,
yes.
No, go ahead.
My only question was, are you having a better success rate of the charges being stayed, or?
It's about the same as it's always been, to be honest.
Okay.
Like if we're submitting stuff to Crown, like if it's people crimes, the courts, Crown, they care about people on people crimes.
Yeah.
If we're submitting property crimes, oftentimes it takes us 5 or 6 attempts, say at a theft, to actually get somebody charged. We need like Crown wants to see a history before they're going to charge people. I think, the reality is I would love to see change federally that holds offenders accountable, and we're not seeing that yet. So.
That was one question that, I had, that how Crown is looking at these charges now, if they are approving more, or if they're.
I
It's
don't
hard
think,
to say, right?
yeah, I don't think anything's changed in the last few years. Like I said, people crimes, Crown is very much willing to entertain those. Property crime, the courts just don't seem to care, which is unfortunate. So
I think last year or the first year, we talked to Nikki Sharma about bail reform. And she took some of that to Ottawa, and I think she made some leeway into that, not a whole lot, but at least some. Would it be better, should we continue to push for stuff like this at UBCM and ask for more of a federal review? Because we still would have to go through the provincial counterpart to have that happen.
I think it would benefit all municipalities if that was done.
Maybe we could make that a SOGA resolution.
Yeah.
For February.
Yep.
If you look at what we dealt with this year with Ron Carlson, he's a repeat violent offender. He's got a huge history, huge criminal record. And if he was in custody, multiple people in this community wouldn't have been shot at. We wouldn't have had police officers to have to shoot at somebody, and it wouldn't have cost the city over $150,000 in the police response, right? So to see some bail reform would be wonderful.
We'll get that done again for.
So I'll skip through the calls for service on the Coquihalla unless anyone has any questions on that.
No, thanks.
I'll touch base here, just mischiefs in the city. We've really seen mischiefs kind of stay steady over the last 5 years. Not a big change in those stats.
When we talk mischief, what are we talking about?
So mischiefs can be anything from somebody damaging a vehicle, somebody spray painting a building, people refusing to leave a business, right? So we often have vagrancy issues in town where people are going into vestibules, setting up camp, starting fires, damaging things, not leaving. And that would be considered a mischief. And they've really remained pretty steady since 2021 COVID. So the same thing with break and enters. We've seen them stay relatively even since 2020. In 2023 and 2024, we've worked really hard. Marlene has worked really hard completing CPTED reports for a lot of local businesses and encouraging them to make their properties less susceptible to thieves. We've also seen a lot of success actually in the past year with upgraded surveillance systems with a lot of our businesses. And I'll talk about that in the next slide with thefts. We've actually been able to solve a ton of thefts because of it. I think that the majority of our break and enters that occur in this town are a small number of offenders. And we've seen that with a few offenders recently where we've actually linked one offender to multiple break and enters to our businesses downtown and actually seen successful in charging them. So that's good. I think once the courts start taking property crime more seriously, we're going to see a lot of these numbers drop because the offenders that are consistently breaking into homes and businesses are going to be held in jail. So. Any questions about that? So if we look at thefts in the city of Merritt, we have seen simple thefts in this community. The numbers actually exploded here in 2024. The largest increase that we've seen was in shoplifting, which increased by almost 100% between 2023 and 2024. And this increase, in my opinion, is largely attributed to numerous property crime offenders taking up residency in Merritt in the past year. And just an example of that, 2 offenders that we've never dealt with in this community before, that we dealt with a lot this year, have been the suspect or charged in 33 different shoplifting thefts just between September and December alone. So the police response actually, Mayor Getz, that we messaged on the other day, where you guys saw probably a lot of police responding out near the Ranchlands motel there. That the other day was chasing one of these offenders. It's actually responsible for the 33 thefts. He had 5 provincial-wide warrants for the thefts here in Merritt, and we were actually able to apprehend him with the use of the police dog. Took us about 4 hours, but we got him, so that was really good. So we're trying to put these people away and hopefully reduce these numbers for next year. So
Staff Sergeant, when I look at 2023 and 2024, and I see the numbers crop up, and I don't like to beat this to death, but those are the years that we've had DCRIM come into the situation. Does this help, or is some of this coming from that? Because we are getting people that do come to this province that are not from this province because they can't carry in their province, and they bring their lifestyle with them.
We've seen a lot of offenders in Merritt that we've never dealt with in the last couple of years. That's the reality. We've seen a lot of people in this town that we normally don't deal with. I don't want to say it's decrim, but it's just new people in our community. So,
Josh, I just wanted to attest to the shoplifting work in Canadian Tire. This year has been just incredible, the amount of theft and large items, not small. We're talking electric bike, electric scooters, chainsaws, like large items. So things seem to have slowed down since the Desert Inn did close up shop. So just it seems that has
we've seen a big decrease.
So.
We've seen a big decrease in even calls for service since the Desert Inn closed and Tent City disbanded there. We've seen a decrease in vagrancy downtown. I also do think the weather plays a bit into that as well, but yeah, we've seen a decrease. I think a lot of the thefts that are occurring in the community are going unreported. We have certain places that call us all the time, and we'd like to encourage business owners to call us every time there's a theft. Like, we need to record those stats, and we've had a ton of success in solving these crimes. A lot of these offenders don't change their clothes from day to day. So when they go in the BC liquor store one day wearing the exact same thing, 3 days later, we'll catch them on the street wearing the same clothes. And we often get these people and are successful through the courts. So, yeah. I'll talk about the next slide here, robberies within the city. Now, robberies is an interesting statistic because one or two offenders can really skew the stats, and you'll see that here. We had a lot of robberies in 2022, a huge decrease in 2023, and we've seen a big increase here in 2024. And when I look at the files, I believe they're linked to a couple of offenders that were committing robberies over a certain time period. But it's an interesting stat just to see in a community, because robberies are very, you just don't want them in your town. The reality is they're thefts with violence or threats of violence, and we don't want that here. So, any questions on that?
Well, I only have a question about the thefts. Are these mostly just to businesses, or is it residential as well?
The majority are businesses.
Because I know that we hear about a lot of things, even in the office, about lots of things stolen, like Christmas decorations or garden items, the small things that are too small to bother with reports and claims and things. So people end up eating those losses, and I don't know if they even bother reporting it, because by the time they realize it, it's been hours.
Yeah.
So you're just encouraging even people report it regardless.
Anything. Like,
Okay.
people need to call in, right? So we actually did have somebody call in stolen lawn ornaments the other day. I think it was let me see if I'm wrong, a snowman, some special snowman ornament off their yard. And you know what? We sent it out to all the police officers in town. And if we see somebody with that ornament, they're going to get arrested. So, yeah, we don't want any of that in town. So we'd encourage the public to report everything.
And when you're talking robbery, so we're talking weapon.
These are
Produced.
weapons, use with a firearm or imitation firearm or a knife or something. And the majority of our robberies happen at the gas stations in town, and they're usually late at night. So 7-Eleven has been robbed, Canco, that's where we see those things take place. Now, we've encouraged a lot of these businesses to close their doors at a certain time, and actually operate through, you see in other communities where they just operate with a window and have people come up, and it would prevent a lot of these crimes. A lot of the local business owners refuse to do that. So, it happens. The next piece here is we've seen a slight increase in mental health act calls from last year to this year. But it's stayed relatively similar. 2021 is higher, and I think that's just due to COVID. But these calls, they pose a significant challenge to us here. Obviously, with the Merritt Hospital doesn't have a psych ward. So what often happens is if we go there and they're busy, we have to take the person to Kamloops. If we do go and they are certified by a doctor, sometimes ambulance is willing to take them to Kamloops for us. They'll sedate them. Other times the police officer has to transport. And it's just, they're challenging files, and they take a lot of time and a lot of resources. So, any questions?
So do we have access to any mental health locally? Because I was talking to somebody who works with Interior Health, and was saying that the mental health services with Interior Health is better than it's been in years, but I don't know what resources we have locally.
So we have a couple mental health nurse positions, and Marlene would know a lot more about this. She works with them on one of our tables, situation table, but they work primarily, I think it's Monday to Friday, day hours. And a lot of the clients they deal with have to be willing to work with them. And so it's not people in crisis, which is what our officers are getting called to. They're getting called to somebody that's, say, actively trying to kill themselves, which is why oftentimes we'll apprehend them, or sometimes people that are homicidal will have to apprehend under the Mental Health Act. And the mental health nurses in our community aren't going to see them. They're often working with other clients during the week. So
Makes sense. Yeah. Thanks.
And I just want to touch on just a couple statistics for you guys as part of our performance planning goals this past year. So our fiscal year runs April 1st to March 31st, so we're still working on those. But we've had 463 targeted downtown patrols this year. So our CPO position, Blake Chersnoff there is our constable in the CPO position, and Blake does a lot of downtown patrols and did that this summer, foot, bike, everything else. And our general duty members do that as well. So they've documented 463 patrols in the downtown area. And our members have done 166 traffic stops this year. And these are just the stops that resulted in enforcement action. And that enforcement action would be like a written warning, a written ticket, impaired drivers, anything like that.
So I have to tell you, I've had several calls this year about people appreciating the downtown patrols and the bike patrols. They sure appreciated it. So good on you guys for doing that. So thank you.
No, appreciate it. Thank you. And then just a piece I wanted to just bring up for discussion with the committee, and just so we get it on. I've talked with the mayor about this before, but the Citizens on Patrol group that has made themselves prominent in the community here and on Facebook and stuff like that. And I have approached that group. I have told them that the RCMP has a Citizens on Patrol group. I put them in touch with Marlene and asked them not to go out and do their Citizens on Patrol piece until we take them through the RCMP process. We would love to have them join the RCMP Citizens on Patrol program. It's insured. They get training. They get a vehicle provided to them. But at this point, they're not engaging with Marlene and they're doing their own thing. So I just wanted to make it clear that the RCMP has no association to that group whatsoever. They are citizens. They can do what they want. And if they call us, we'll respond, but we're not condoning what they're doing. So
I've had several conversations with the people who are running it, and I've let them know that the city of Merritt would like to get behind it as well once they become legit, and they've assured me they're going to. So I'll continue to talk to the two individuals, and they're very passionate about it. But we've also talked about the pratfalls that can come from not being official and what can go wrong with that. So they're well aware of it. And they have mentioned that they do want to go through with Marlene, which I guess it's just getting them to actually take the next step. But I'll continue to have conversations with him. He comes to see me regular. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind taking a shift once in a while, but I won't until they are completely 100% certified. So, Councillors, anything?
I think you kind of covered it. I think everybody's general concern is that having the eyes and ears and the citizens kind of watching out for each other, block watch and whatever is helpful. So I think their ideas are good, but I also see that they need to work with Marlene and Citizens on Patrol through the RCMP properly, because people have to follow certain parameters. Obviously, they can't just be vigilante out there and cause problems. But anyway, no, I think you've already covered it. So thanks.
I was talking with Councillor Petrosi before the meeting as well. He was going to ask me, I prepared a few things in regards to, I watched the special council meeting that happened on December 9th in regards to cutting 2 policing positions. So I have some information for you guys. Do you guys want that now, or do you want to let Marlene present first and then go to this afterwards?
You're on the floor.
To you guys. Okay, perfect. So I watched the special council meeting on December 9th on YouTube, which talked about policing. And I noticed there was a lot of incorrect information that was provided to mayor and council. And so I just wanted to address that information today so that you guys have the appropriate information moving forward to make a decision on public safety. I'd also like to offer that in the future, if you guys do talk about policing in the council meeting, I am happy to come out to any of those meetings and answer any questions you guys have. So I just wanted to put that out there. So the first thing I wanted to address was that it's been said to council that 17 municipal positions are out of 17, only 14 are filled. That's actually not true. 16 positions are filled. 2 officers are on long-term sick leave, which means the city's only paying for 14 positions. So we only have one municipal vacancy. We actually have one municipal and one provincial vacancy. But you guys are paying for 14 because of two on sick leave right now. So another piece in there was that it was just mentioned that you guys thought that it was 90 days that the city pays when somebody's off. It's only 30 days. So if somebody's off sick for 30 days, after that 30-day period, they're moved to a provincial collator and province pays for them after that. So it's not coming against your budget, which is why you guys are paying for 14 currently. And what happens as well is if somebody is off sick for more than a year, we can then fill that position. So we give people a year to basically get themselves back to a point where they can come back to work. So the other piece that was talked about, they said what I just want to share is if we lose 2 positions, so we go from 17 municipal positions to 15, we will actually have no ability to manage vacancies as the RCP. So we'll actually be at 100% staffing level for the detachment. So what that means is every position in our detachment on paper will be filled. So meaning that our rotable rate our rate will be at 100%. We won't rotably be at 100% because we'll have a couple members off on sick leave, but we'll be at 100% staffing level. And so what that means is that we'll be higher than every other detachment in this province for our size detachment. Most detachments are not staffed like this. Like if you look at Vancouver, Victoria, Surrey, Maple Ridge, Revelstoke, anywhere, they're all running a deficit. Every detachment runs a vacancy because the reality is people are going to be sick. People are going to be transferring. People are going to be retiring. You're never sitting at 100% staffing level. So if we reach 100%, I have 3 officers in this detachment that currently have been offered transfers. Their transfers are being denied because we're not at a position that we can release them, or we're going to lose 24-hour policing. So if we lose those 2 positions, we'll be at 100%. I'll have to release 3 officers. And what'll happen is we'll drop from 14 rotable to 11 or 12. And this will take me to my next piece. If we lose those, we lose 24-hour police.
So thanks for that information. Based on that, so if we proceed with the 15, then what will happen is the transfers will happen because we'll be
At 100%.
okay.
So as we had the conversation, this is very early in the budget, and that is one of 25 different scenarios that were offered. So, like I say, we have till May to get this done.
Yeah.
So it's just one of 25 options. I mean, that's if we choose to, we may choose just to bite off the chunk and take the whole percentage and do it. Or this is how we can bring the taxes down. So there's 25 different options. And it's just one that was looked at and one that has been bandied about and talked about. So I would have to say that nothing is written in stone at this point.
Perfect. That's great.
I think that we were just thinking it was a way to get the budget to a number that seemed reasonable at the time, but having this information, we were concerned that we wouldn't really have any stats until March to know what we're really going to be sitting at until your year end. So I think it was kind of some nervous people around the table were thinking that.
There's many scenarios that could play out on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
You know, you talk about a 12% raise, which are of taxes, which we did last year, 12.5. We as a council felt another 12 this year would be a little high, but we're trying to get back on our financial feet.
Totally.
But we've talked about an 8%, a 10%, a 6%, 12%. So there's all of those scenarios. And what Kevin has done is given us several scenarios on how we can get to these certain numbers. Well, ideally, we would like to just go with, hey, let's just do it and be done with it and move on. But it's just scenarios that we're talking about.
Okay.
But it's good to have the information. To be honest.
Yeah. I just want you guys to have everything.
Yep.
So, and something to think about. So if you lose 24-hour policing, what the detachment does is we'll have to go back to an on-call model, which is what we had basically 3 years ago. And so what that is the on-call model, you end up incurring a lot of on-call costs and overtime costs for police officers. So because we have only a certain amount of members, the way we manage it is we run a schedule where we have on-call between 3 and 7 a.m. So it ends up being 4 hours of paid on-call for 2 officers, 365 days a year. And on top of that, any calls that come in the city limits, the city pays overtime for those officers to go to those calls. And so that's a minimum 3-hour call out at a hour or a 1.5 hourly rate. And so just something to consider in 2024 to date, we've had 409 calls in the city of Merritt between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. And the interesting piece on that is, and why I say 2 a.m., even though on call starts at 3, oftentimes if a police officer gets called at 2 a.m. to a domestic, that file is not done in an hour, right? They're going to work probably till 6 a.m., potentially arresting, booking somebody into cells. Maybe they have to write a report to Crown Counsel now, and they're now working overtime. And while they're on overtime, the on-call members' pay still starts. They become on call. Another call comes in, 2 police officers are getting called out to go to respond to that call. So you're almost looking at, and which was a big push for us before, was we were almost paying overtime 365 days a year between those hours to call police officers out. And it was burning through our overtime budget. So going to the 24-hour and having extra members, we don't have to put people on call. We're not billing overtime for any of those 409 calls. Those are members that are regularly on shift going to those files.
And Josh mentioned the amount of stress that would be increased if we did lose a couple members, stress to the members.
Yeah. And so like,
you know, it's.
you often don't think of that, right? Is like when you have a stressed workforce, when they're overworked, and to be frank, they're overworked already. Like our members are so busy, their file queues are through the roof. Like, you know, we put in 286 crowns this year. They're busy. And you take away 3 members, you don't lose the workload. Those 6,500 files are still coming in. So now you're just taking 6,500 files between less police officers, and they're going to have to work more overtime. So you have a less healthy workforce at the end of the day. And I just don't see it being a benefit at the end. But something else I just wanted to bring up, because I just noticed it mentioned in the meeting a couple times, and CFO's aware, but the funding is the city of Merritt pays 70% of the municipal policing costs. The federal government pays the other 30%. So you guys aren't paying 100% of the 17 positions, you pay 70% of those. So just to share that. And so another piece was that I heard in the meeting was a question was asked that if we take these officers away and realize we need them, can we get them back? And it was said that it's easy to get them back, but I can tell you from experience, it is not an easy process. Like 6 years ago, this community decided they needed 2 more positions. There was a community forum held. The community said, we want more police officers in our community because we want 24-hour policing. And so the decision was made to increase by 2. That took almost 3 years to come to fruition, because what happens is the city had to write to the province to say they wanted to do this. The province looked at it, said, yeah, we agree. It then went to the feds, and then the federal government said, yeah, we agree. The RCMP then has to create position numbers and then start the staffing process. And it was almost 3 years to fill those positions. So it's just something to think about. If you lose these spots, you're not getting them back quickly. And same process to cut positions. You guys have to, this is just a thing. The city has to get essentially permission from the province to reduce the numbers. And then it has to go to the federal government, and it's all laid out in the municipal police agreement. So, but just another piece I wanted to touch on too. It was talked about like the transfer process with the RCMP, and there was a comment made that nobody wants to come to Merritt. It's actually not true. We have had issues in the past filling positions here, but right now it's not the case. Like I said, we have 16 of 17 positions filled. And part of that is because this summer we actually identified 2 senior members, one from Vernon and one from Fort St. John, that wanted to come to Merritt, and both were given transfers and came here. We also just got a recruit, Paul had mentioned at the meeting, that started here at the beginning of December. So we're getting police officers that want to come here, which is great. So if we have positions, we can fill them. But the other reality is there's always going to be vacancies, and we need room to manage those vacancies with sick leave. The RCMP is not going to prioritize Merritt as a staffing location if we're at 90% versus Vernon being at 70. right? Vernon's going to get the police officers first, and then they'll look at staffing merit. So the reality is we are always going to run a bit of a vacancy here. But if we stay at 17, we can manage that and keep 24-hour policing. I don't ever see this community in a year paying for the full 17, to be frank. It hasn't happened since I've been here in the 2 years, and we're not even close to doing that now. So
Josh, how does the pay work for, say, recruits? Because usually it's 3 years before they senior
Yeah,
constable full pay.
So you actually pay less for a recruit. So the recruit's making a certain wage and they're not a senior constable till 3 years. So you guys get that adjustment is made at the end of the year as well. So you see less, cost the city less to have recruits. So we have currently, I think we have 3 members that are under 3 years service right now. One's a brand new recruit making next to nothing, and one has 10 months. So
new recruit comes in, how long do they have to shadow someone before they can be set free?
So they're in a car with their trainer for 2 months. And if they pass and are showing that they're able to go on their own, they're put into their own vehicle. However, they're still shadowed by their trainer technically for till the 6-month mark, and then they're set free on their own. So,
Okay. So I guess my question would be, I know I've gone through the work world. What if we do have somebody who's a new recruit that doesn't really start to cut it after 6 months? Is that a retraining situation, or do they get some help to get there, or how does that work? Because I'm assuming that happens once in a while.
it does. Yeah. So what happens is we have a pretty vigorous recruit field training program. So it's the field trainer that is working with the recruit, and they identify competencies. They fill out a huge package, and the recruit has to meet certain benchmarks throughout the 6 months. If they don't meet those, oftentimes, we'll do an assessment and decide, is it a recruit trainer issue or is it a recruit issue? If we think it's not a recruit trainer issue and there's no conflict there, then we'll let the recruit stay with the trainer, and we'll probably just extend their field training. If that continues, there's been times where recruits have even been transferred out of detachments to new places to try to get them where they need to be. And if they don't get there, then they end up getting dismissed. So it's quite a big process. There's a unit at PRTC, our training center in Chilliwack, that actually manages all the recruit field training for the province of British Columbia. And they're heavily engaged. So they make a lot of decisions depending on the circumstance. So the last piece I did want to bring up is that just to reiterate, we had put a business case in 2 years ago to the province asking for 2 provincial positions. The province did approve 1 position for us, and we received that position 6 months ago, the approval for that. And Constable Shannon Wright, who came from Vernon, actually filled that provincial position. So the province, it has paid for another provincial position. So that has really helped us get to a point where we now know that we can sustain 24-hour policing in the community. We were basically, with what we had previous to Shannon getting here, we had a lot of concerns that one major incident might take us out of 24-hour policing again. Having that extra body has got us to a point where we know we can sustain it. So, which is actually great news to the community. So.
And Josh, I just want to mention that having 24-hour policing, when you have somebody in cells, it's great having
Huge
RCMP member available right now if you need somebody, right? So if there's that on call.
Yep. Well, it's not just the cells, right? Like, so the reality is, if we have somebody in cells and the police officers go home at the end of their shift and they're on call, yeah, the people working, the commissionaires that are cell guards for us, if there's an issue, they hit the panic button, and it takes time to call a police officer at home, get them to wake up, get them out of bed, get them down to the police station, getting dressed into their vehicles. And, if it's just in cells, they can respond pretty quick. But if somebody's at home and they're calling 911 because they have a real emergency, our response time is, it's not quick. And that's the unfortunate thing about having on-call policing and not having 24 hours. You get a worse service. That's the reality of it. So that's all I have for you guys. Hopefully this answered some questions for you. Do you guys have any other questions for me about that?
Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. I've never watched so many council meetings in my life, but you know what? It was actually really good. I learned a lot, so.
Excellent. Did we cover 4.2 RCMP detachment 2025 updates?
Uh,
That's 4.2.
yeah, that would be that would be just kind of the patrol updates and stuff like that. Is there anything else you guys want to discuss in there? Okay, and then I think it's just Marlon's update.
Excellent. So 5.1 CPO report year end 2024. Marlene, you're up. Good.
Okay, thank you. So I'll cover the different programming that we're involved in throughout the year. We're not quite finished, but these numbers are getting close. Our Blockwatch program has increased to participation of about 200 homes. I provide an update to the captains and then those 200 homes once a month. So we're covering, I do a file review, much like I do when going to a SEPTED location, that kind of thing. Provide information to the block watches as to whether anything has happened close to their neighborhood or within their block watch, and whether what we're seeing around town, how they can help to prevent those sort of activities from coming into their neighborhood. I also provide that to the Senior Society and the Better at Home program so that I can reach out and touch base with many of the seniors that are in our community. Next is the situation table that began here in 2021. We are now one of 37 active tables in the province. I attend pretty well all of those meetings. I chair those meetings. And then we have police representatives at that, whether it's Constable Chursonoff or Indigenous policing, either one of them, whoever's working, they attend to that. Since 2021, we have offered services to 41 either individuals or families. So that's when somebody's identified as being at acutely elevated risk, then they require some extra support. And this table sort of serves as a touch point where the police might be dealing with somebody who's struggling. And we often hear, you know, why the police dealing with that? That's a health issue. It's through the situation table that we can now hand that back to the health service providers or the social service providers. So we've been able to do that for 41 individuals. Now, having said that, not all individuals are able to recover and not get back into that position again. So we do have some repeat at the table, but certainly of the 41, it's mostly been new individuals that have required that support. As far as safety and SEPTED assessments, so far this year I've done.
Could I just back you up 1 second on the situation table? I know we have had conversations before where you felt that there was no IHA input or at the table. Are they coming?
They are there, yes.
They're there.
They are very much there.
Is there
Yeah.
anybody missing from the table that we should shake the tree?
Yeah, at this point, not necessarily. And I'm dealing with the province on that as well. We even have a better complement of Indigenous service providers. So we have the Indigenous Justice Center and Nate's there, and so we're able to do quite a bit. Thank you. The safety and SEPTED assessments. So far I've done 9 businesses, 1 residential and 1 neighborhood. And before the end of the year, I'm hoping to finish up 2 more business assessments.
So when you do a SEPTED, how do people receive the SEPTED information when you're done? Do they take it seriously or they go like, okay, thanks for coming, see you later? Sort of?
Yeah, no, so on the advices of Staff Sergeant Rhoda, I have done some follow-ups with those. And actually, yeah, very well. I feel a little vulnerable doing it because I'm pointing out their weaknesses, right? And sometimes to fix those weaknesses, it requires funding. And so if you are having a challenge at your business, I kind of felt like the last thing you wanted to have was somebody come in and do an assessment and tell you should spend some money. However, during these assessments, what have I seen? They've been able to increase lighting. That's a big thing. Lots of people are willing to take that step, and that really can help. It can help the members on patrols going by, and it also gets rid of those shadows where people can hide, right? And then if you're hiding in the shadows, often property damage and things like that happens, right? We see that at Spirit Square around the stage area. Really willing to increase visibility, whether that's inside the business, maybe shifting some displays to make sure that staff can see things from the till area. right to even outside, they're moving vehicles that would have shaded doors and stuff before. So lots of that has happened. We've had, through consultation with some of these, we've had some additional murals, installed in town. There was quite a significant, problem with graffiti behind Canate and Copper Valley Mechanical in that area. In fact, between doing the assessment, I do a daytime assessment and then take a little break and then go back with a police officer at night, and the area was tagged awfully between those two assessments. But now they've added a very nice mural to that area, which really does prevent that graffiti. And they have plans for going down the side of the building. So yeah, so there's been a lot of things, and there's a couple of businesses maybe that where I was doing the assessment and they seemed kind of guarded and they didn't think that there would be anything that they would do, but I've gone back with the follow-ups and actually they have done things. And when I talked to several businesses, I've asked them, so are you seeing any different challenges? Are you seeing less challenges? And several of them have come back with less challenges. One business implemented several of the things I wanted and then took another couple of sort of ideas of his own, which, you know what, he's saying that sort of, he has seen a decrease. And the other one business that I talked to sort of speaks about maybe the prolific offenders, right? They were getting really hit hard by several individuals, and they haven't seen them around the community lately. So we think maybe that the enforcement team has been able to help out with that. Community engagement, we've been pretty busy. We've done 23 community events this year, whether it was sort of block watch training in the community or scam presentations or out at the Friday night markets. There was a first Friday night market this summer and we attended to that. When we're able to go to those sorts of things, it really helps. I'm able to watch the environment prior to everybody arriving, and I have to say, sometimes it surprises me and I walk somewhere and find something that I have to call a police officer for. And I think, oh, I didn't see that coming together, but you're not going to see everything. But it gives people attending that event someone to contact. And then, because sometimes they need a bit of reinforcement that, yes, that's something you would call for help about.
Marlene, I just wanted to mention some of the events you've held at the Civic Center
Mhm.
were really well received, well attended.
Yeah.
Actually better than some of the city open houses. So, you know, public safety is just huge, right? A lot of people in the community take it really seriously. So,
Yes, I was very happy with the last two scam presentations. I do the file review and feel kind of disheartened that people are still getting caught. But yeah, like 140 people in the last, over 140 people in the last two presentations. So we're getting out there and we're connecting with them, but I guess that just takes time. Right? Volunteers. I hear lots of other organizations describing that it's a challenge, and it is. We have several long-term volunteers with us, and I've leaned a little bit harder on the Crime Stoppers volunteers this year. When I'm going out to a community event and I need extra adults to help me, that's kind of what I've been leaning on them, and they've been very good to step up. And we've also had more youth involvement this year. So we can use the youth when we're attending to a family-friendly community event, or I can use them in preparing behind the scenes, right? I wouldn't necessarily have them out speaking about theft prevention and things like that, but you know, even just as fun as the parade, we loved their enthusiasm and energy. Apparently I reached the age where I don't run behind the float anymore. Who knew? But they do, so it's lovely. So the challenge with being out in the community quite a bit is keeping the office open, right? Because there's one of me. I never have Constable Chersonoff there to open the office because he can be called away at any moment. So I'm pretty well that individual that does that. Do the best I can. We've had 255 front counter interactions. So that's reports where I'm having to call the detachment for somebody to come down. That's bike registrations, maybe questions, community partners coming in, touching base because they want me to do some sort of a presentation for them, stuff like that. On top of that, we host the situation table there every Tuesday. And then just monitoring the square, right? That's a busy square. So when looking at the files, we've had quite a few calls for service there over this year, and I've called for almost half of those, so. Just not necessarily great, but at least I'm able to keep an eye on things. And I know there's more because I was called to make a call even just yesterday, so.
Thank you. So we're talking about, and I think Josh, we've talked about this, we're talking about cameras at Spirit Square in the next while. I think we're looking at that and possibly some fencing around the stage area itself to try and calm things down, or some fencing along the back of the alley. That alley is one of the alleys that we looked at the very first year of council, that we want to move into a situation where we can light it up much better, kind of like what we've done over here at the curling rink. And light that alley up, get the dumpsters out. We're starting to talk about another way of doing commercial garbage dumpster free to a situation. Dumpsters are a bit of a problem. And so we are working on that, but I think probably you'll start to see cameras start to show up in the community in the next little while. So we feel that they're needed. So especially at Spear Square. So
Even City Hall.
yeah, and even City Hall we got broken into. So you'll notice we now have the ability to well, you'll notice the couch and everything is gone. You'll also notice their screen back there. Can't get to the washrooms anymore. Have to take some measures, and we have to take a few more, but it's like everything else. So
Staff, did you want to introduce to the members you have beside you there? If none of us have actually,
Yeah.
I have met them, but
So this is Staff Sergeant Trevor Tribes. He's our district advisor NCO from the Southeast District. And then Corporal John Peterbow, and John is currently the acting ops NCO here in Merritt.
thank you. Gentlemen, any words of wisdom for us?
I don't know how wise they are. I just-
We'll take
I'll just
'em.
Chime in on a couple of things. Sounds like you mentioned you had 25 items you're looking at to manage your budget, and the new Southeast District Officer, Chief Superintendent Sean Ball, is aware of our discussions here, and she has asked me to convey to you that if you need more input from a senior corporate management position, she's available to come speak with you in person or in this setting, or to whatever your public hearings as well, whatever suits you from your budget prep for information. As well as I'll chime in a little bit on the system of the program. We actually have a training syllabus that we deliver to citizens and volunteers, and it's a formal thing. It's designed by the RCMP. We get good feedback from the people who get selected to participate in our citizens on patrol training classes. A number of those topics are led by experienced police officers at the detachment level, which starts a very good relationship with the people who are going to be part of that COP cadre. And they start to develop those relationships early on in those classes with the regular members. They're going to be telephone. It's going to be assigned a regular member telephone. See something to be your call, watch that. Constantly so there's some interesting things they learn in these classes. It gets a lot of buy-in, and I can tell you that I've been around this out for a long time, and I have seen a number of young people gravitate towards the CRP program. So it's great for them for developing themselves as young people. And some of those people are going on the RCMP, so it's something we do support it. So we're speaking with if I like this running the ad hoc program, let them know that we're all in on this.
I have actually. I've really stressed the fact that it's hitting the buttons that you would like to be hit. It's not really sure why the hesitation, to be honest. But we'll continue to plug away at it, and hopefully we can get them on board, because I think it's needed in this community, but it's got to be done correctly.
All I got.
Thank you. I'll just have to get you to turn your mic on, sir. There you go. You're up.
Nothing from me. I think Josh covered everything. I will say something that Councillor Etcher touched on was the calls for the theft. Those numbers that we're reporting probably are lower than the actual numbers, because a lot of people frankly just don't bother to report. If they lost something of low value from their vehicle or their backyard, they probably just don't call. So those numbers probably are higher than what we report.
I think so, just based on the number of calls that we see in the office every day, I'm sure
Yeah.
more than that, yeah.
Marlene?
I know that we try to cover this when we're out in the community or whatever, all the different ways that you can call. And the online reporting is, I think, really underutilized, right? If somebody has a theft and they think, oh, I don't really want to bother the detachment, because I hear that quite a bit. They hear how members are busy. You can go on through the City of Merritt website and do an online report if you don't have. So unfortunately, I hate to think that families are getting Christmas decorations stolen, but all of a sudden you get up in the morning and the tree's missing from the front yard. You don't have a suspect, maybe you don't have video, that kind of thing. That's an easy report. I actually do them quite a bit, when I don't expect a police officer necessarily to come and solve the problem. And it's very convenient, and I think it's really underutilized.
Good, thank you.
Josh, I just wanted to ask, do you have a record of, say, how many calls involved with bylaw? Bylaw calls you, calls the members, calls the detachment?
I'd have to look and see if we have the bylaw officer carded to all those files.
Oh, okay.
That would be the only way for me to look it up, because not all the calls we get from bylaws are bylaw complaints, right? Like Wes will often call us about things that we have to respond to that are maybe criminal or something else. But I could look up a number and get you probably pretty close to what he's called.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Well, thank you for your report, Marlene. Appreciate it. Thank you for the work you do. It's great. Council, anything else?
No, it's just really great to get a lot of information today. I always like getting the monthly report we see from Marlene. You guys always have great information. I think getting to have the sessions that have been put on have been really helpful. The downtown patrols that have been happening have been positive, so it's nice to see. I think we're just gonna continue to see more of these episodes with some substance users. There's more people walking through the parking lots these days screaming and yelling every day, but it becomes so normal now that, it's just Tuesday. But I don't know what else to do, but thanks for the great information today. Really appreciate the information presented today. Thanks.
And thanks, Josh, and tell your members, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Yes, and I want to say Merry Christmas to you all, and have a good Christmas. Drive safely. Don't chase that storm too hard. Take it easy. Anything else from anyone? We'll declare it adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
That was good. That is really good to get all that.